whoever feels like jumping in first, I'm interested, when you started your company, you probably had a sense of how critical the intellectual property was that you had at formation. And I'm guessing that that road didn't always necessarily follow the path over time in terms of the criticality of that initial intellectual property versus follow-on intellectual property or versus intellectual property at all. So I'm interested, sort of from whoever wants to jump in, when you were sitting where they're sitting and thinking, I'm going to launch a company someday, I've got a cool idea. How quickly did you come to the idea of, I need to find my patent and I need to make sure it's a strong patent?
Well, I guess in my case, in the first company, we had licensed technology out of university, so that was the kind of the basis point of starting that company. But we knew we were going to need to develop additional intellectual property and surround that patent. It was very important because it was early stage technology. It lent itself to a number of applications in very kind of high profile areas. So we held a lot of importance on the intellectual property of that particular company. In the second one, similar initially, but a little bit, it shifted a little bit down the road. Whereas it was of importance to us to have intellectual property because we started out developing some sensor technology for the wearables industry. And then through the course of the operations of that company, determined or became much less device agnostic and more of a kind of a web-based platform. So the patent per se wasn't, we didn't hold the same level of importance, although it turned out at the end of the day that was the vehicle that enabled an exit. So what we thought might not be as necessary turned out to be still fairly important.
I'll come back to that story later. That's an interesting one, but yeah.
So in my case, we routinely disclose new ideas and inventions to CTV, and then CTV goes through its own process of whether they should file a patent or not. So for Infineo's case, Infineo used to be called Silver Lining then. We had to change the name because this movie came out. And
But actually, it was a very cute name because it's a cloud computing company, right? So every cloud should have one.
That was the logo, but we had to change it.
Yeah, it's a shame.
So, but I think it was around
Trademarks.
October 2010. We disclosed to CTV, and then you went through your process, decided to file a patent, and then when the student had actually implemented the idea, and when we saw the results of this thing really works, that's when I thought that maybe we should go out and build a company around that. So that was about 6 months after that, late spring, early summer of 2011. And then we filed, the patent had been filed. I started talking to venture capitalists. We raised our seed round. And at that time I thought, okay, this is a great idea, this is a great product, there's no question that it's going to succeed. So after we raised our seed round, then we started talking to potential customers. And then sort of the direction changed. We realized that what we had built was great in terms of demoing a concept, but it was not the product. So after talking to customers, we sort of started evolving our thinking. And then I would say the first patent was extremely critical in getting first round of funding. And then it was very helpful in thinking through the subsequent patents. It sort of put us in the direction where we have to go. But being in academia, you don't interact with industry so much. With that patent and with the initial round of funding, I started talking to industry and customers and realized that the actual problem was slightly different from what we had thought. So the patent was critical in the sense that it helped us to get started. But as you said, the direction changed slightly. And for us, it was really first contact with customers.
Did you end up filing, has the company filed many more patents?
We have filed 2 more patents.
2 more patents?
2 more patents, yeah.
Okay.
We're about to file more, but 2 have been filed then.
I was going to say, in my experience, it's very situational. In most of the social media companies, it's irrelevant. They may have patents, but it really makes no difference at all to the outcome of the company. In biotech, it's the 100% of the game. In most of the companies I've either founded or had close relationships with, it helped convince the VCs that they were buying an asset. But in fact, it had almost nothing to do with the company's success. And in general, you don't have the funds to defend it if threatened. And there's multiple ways of doing things. And I was just thinking about that because I was looking at the screen. And does anyone have enough science background to know why there's that curved wire along the edge? It's called a catenary. It's the shape that the Brooklyn Bridge takes. And it puts uniform tension across the screen. And it's a very popular way to do these things. But there are 5 other ways to make a screen. And what usually happens in most of the companies I've been associated with is you have your IP, and people just do it some other way. And the fact that your IP is nice, and it has some value, but it really, at the end of the day, except in some things like biotech, has nothing to do with your success, to be honest.